I love to explain to people how things work, the real story. And I'm going to give you an idea of something. Every now and then I'll do, as long as people have me. I don't think they recognize what I'm saying, but sometimes I'll go on a radio or show, and believe me, nobody wants to have me on because I will immediately start to mock them because for the most part, most of these shows are a complete and total waste of time. But let me just bring you up to speed on something. And this is just so interesting. Let me give you a little bit on New York, just some New York stuff, which applies to the rest of the world. I'm going to first tell you this because some of you fine people will make the mistake of thinking, well, that's New York. I don't have to worry about that. I'm in Muncie or I'm in Dayton or I'm someplace else. No. The fish rots from the head down. We have to look and see what Sadiq Khan is doing in London. Look what's happening there. They're going to limit you purchasing clothes. You watch what happens there. You have to watch what's happening there. Just like I told you about this Grisham in New Mexico. They come along and they pay these people to do this stuff. Lori Lightfoot, Hochul, Eric Adams, all the DAs that came along and basically sold out to to whoever, to Soros. They're not going to be backed up. They're on their own. They're on their own. It's done. I mean, they're on their own. That's one thing they don't realize. They think somehow like, well, I'm going to get paid off, right? I'm going to be, yeah, right. You think that Gascon and all these others are, no. Krasner and no. They don't go off and say, hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for your help. You just destroyed the city. If you really want to see a place, if you really want to see the crucible for watching what happens, you've got to look at Kensington in Philadelphia. And while you're at it, check out their senator. Did you see what happened to, I think, believe it or not, interesting, Fetterman, he did this kind of a monster thing. I think he actually looks far better when he's portraying a monster. He seemed more, I swear to God, more lucid and more funny because he was trying to explain how, this Biden stuff. But watch him walking around in his workman's outfit. The people who are the custodians in the Senate, God bless these people, are better dressed than he is. Think about that. See where this country is going? You see how this works? But please look at Philly and look at this place called Kensington. Okay? Here's the way I would clean this up. You ready for this? This is it. Very simple. I drive around in big buses. And we have them, I don't know. We might have maybe military medical teams on there. They are the most drugged up. We've got a few here, but nothing like this. Nothing. Kensington is it. I would get them. I would drive them out in the middle of nowhere. I would have a little facility. If you want to sit around and pass out, you pass out here. But you are not coming back to Philly. You are not going to loiter. You're not going to fall asleep on the street. You're not going to be sitting there in your own waste. You're not going to be doing this. We saw this woman there and they passed out. She has a trail of apparently urine or something. And some idiot's trying to help her. Here's some water. I'm thinking, are you a putz or what? Do you know what's going on here? Do you know? If something goes wrong, let's say you give her something. She claims she got sick, then she sues you. I had a friend of mine who owned a very, very famous delicatessen. And they said, we have all this food that we're throwing away. And we'd love to give it to, homeless shelters. One person said, I got sick. I'm going to sue. They said, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. Thank you. Because people don't understand what's going on. If you dry these people up, if you say you can't come here anymore, you can't do this. We don't want you here. You can't pass out on the street with needles. I don't need a law. That's it. Grisham in New Mexico wants to apply health and safety laws about guns. I'm doing this. That's it. and tomorrow they're gone. And then I take the biggest power washer, like almost like a fire truck that you would use to send, and I would just sweep up every bit of the grime and blood and egesta and human waste and clean it up and say, that's it. You're not coming back. Simple. What happened to these people? I don't care. I don't care. Anybody care what happens to you? No. But they don't do that when they could do that. And they don't do that because they want there to be complete and total chaos. Now, let me explain to you a couple of things about New York, which is interesting. Here's a voice you haven't heard. Fetterman I hear more of than Kirsten Gillibrand. You know who she is? In 2015, there was a woman named Sulkowicz or something. She was called Mattress Girl. She claims that she was sexually attacked by this poor guy who basically they blasphemed to death. Now she's a non-binary something or other, non-tertiary, or I don't know what the hell it is. And in 2015, Kirsten Gillibrand, decided to invite this Mattress Girl to the State of the Union when everybody knew she was making this up. She blasphemed and basically libeled this young man who had nothing to do with it. But Kirsten Gillibrand, nowhere to be found. She's the other senator next to Chuck Schumer. Nowhere to be found. Let me say this again. It's easier to find drug addicts and, reprobates in Kensington than it is to find the junior senator of New York. Okay? Now, I got to tell you this story. This is one for the ages. Eric Adams. Listen to him. Just listen to him. Remember when you listen to Sarah Palin and you realize she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't. What's she talking about? She just had. People always think of Tina Fey, but that was really Sarah Palin. Eric Adams is the Alan Glick of politics. Who was that? Remember, Alan Glick was in charge of this. What was the name of the casino? It was in Vegas. It was the owner of the California developer who invested. See, Alan Glick. It was in the Vegas Strip. Who once owned 4 casinos? Remember that? Oh, the Argent Corporation. Yes, the Argent. Making a note of this. This is a guy who came in. They said, "Okay, you're going to be our president. You're going to be the front guy, but it's our casino, not yours, ours. But you go up there and you pretend that you're running this, and we'll come and we'll go in the back and we'll skim. We'll take all the money we want, but you're going to be the jadrul in the front, taking the heat. You're going to be kind of like a no-show job." That's Eric Adams. It's beautiful. And everybody knows, they picked this guy perfectly. He's the stooge. This is a guy who wanted to limit ICE deportations. He wanted to be the cool dude. He wanted New York to be a sanctuary city. Remember this? But he wanted to be the insider. Pictures with, and they take pictures of him like, look at me. Bo Dietl, everybody knows Bo Dietl, very famous New York character, a swaggering New York City cop. He's like, look at me, I'm at Morello's at my table with Eric Adams. Look, here's my guy. See, wink, wink. I own him. He's mine. Look, he's my pal. Got that? Oh, and of course, God knows the city contracts and deals and whatever. I've arrived. Eric Adams says, look at me. He announced that New York City was a sanctuary city. And now he's been abandoned. And then the billionaires and millionaires come and say, oh, no, come here. You're with us. Let's take you to the Hamptons. We're going to raise money for your campaign because we like this. Why? Because you're an idiot. And you keep doing this, and we own you. Not that they pay him, not that he's corrupted, not that there's money exchanged, but to have somebody as your pal that you can wine and dine and schmooze and feign respect. Oh, and he doesn't even realize how he's being used. And when all is said and done, he'll be the Adolf Klein of New York City mayors. Who's Adolf Klein? Exactly. Now, there's an article I want you to read. There's a fellow named Errol Lewis. Errol Lewis, this is so interesting. And Errol Lewis is a very nice man, but he's the other shill for the radical left wokies, the dim box and the factotum of New York One or Spectrum or Frequency or whatever the hell this new thing is. It's kind of a local TV thing. But he's just inside City Hall. He's the Westbrook Pegler of the illiterati. He did an article today where he speaks of how Eric Adams is fueling this Curtis Sliwa thing, which we'll get to in a moment. And he's providing red meat for these crowds. Now, in the media, you've got the Foxes and the Kudlows and the Hannitys, and they're basically the usual suspects. No hits, no runs, no errors. Staying in their lane, watching what they say, harmless. Same old stuff. Isn't this terrible what Biden's doing? Yeah, that's about as deep as it gets. Now, let me tell you about Curtis Sliwa. This is very interesting. I've known him now for, I want to say, 30 years. He is one of the smartest people you will ever meet in your life. He comes across, he's kind of like, I would say Hunts Hall meets Harold Stassen. This is a guy who created at a time when New York was absolutely just at the nadir of horror. He came up with this thing called the Guardian Angels. The Guardian Angels is basically an imaginary group of urban commandos. And he's the generalissimo of this group. And right now, last count, there are 3, 2 of them drawing Social Security. Now, this guy went from crime fighter. I think if left to his own devices, he's a great radio talent, but people won't leave him alone. They always team him with somebody. They always have him. I mean, he's always teamed with like the most, and they're always telling Curtis, you can't do this on your own. Yes, he can. I want to hear him. I don't want to hear him diluted in any event. That's because nobody knows how to program radio anymore. But he's a genius. And when he ran for mayor, he ran against Eric Adams. And what's interesting about this is what was fascinating was that when he did this, all of a sudden he went from crime fighter to talking about feral cats. And he was into cats. He's an ailurophile, excuse me. An ailurophile. Let me get my words right. So he's in this thing, and he's all of a sudden talking about cats. And nobody understands what the hell's going on here. Like, what are you talking about cats for? And I'm going to make sure that we're going to close the kill shelters for the cats. What are you talking about the cats? Nobody cares about the cats. What is this cat stuff you're talking about? I have no idea. The city's falling apart, and he's talking about cats, kitty cats. We adopted a cat. Here's my cat. I love my cat. Meanwhile, the Jadrul, by the way, in the city that's 100%, commie left, they vote for Eric Adams. And Eric Adams, as I said, is a nincompoop. It's an imbecile. He wanted so much to be Hollywood. Well, not Hollywood, but Broadway. He wanted to go to the clubs and be wined and dined, put all his buddies and cronies, which all politicians do, let's face it. But he just was so, he was a borough president of Brooklyn, and I think he was some meager politician. He has no idea of what's going on. Absolutely no idea. And now he's desperate. And whenever he speaks to anybody, he falls apart. By the way, one more thing about Curtis Sliwa. He always walks around with he has a red beret and this kind of a sateen jacket with his name, as though you don't know who he is. If he took that hat off, he could walk into a bank, rob it. Nobody would know who he was. They wouldn't know who he was. They might recognize his voice, but they wouldn't know who he is. He's He's this crime fighter of one group, I guess. You know who also is very interesting? They keep bringing back this poor guy, Anthony Weiner. Now, I don't know about you. Anthony Weiner is just so beaten. He's just so down. I can't, he's down completely, totally, actually, just removed to nothing. I don't know what the word is. He's just, it's so incredibly sad. You've got to see this. He goes on TV shows and they just beat him up. He was on that Jesse Waters show, who was a cretin, a bona fide cretin. People like him because people are cretinous as well. And they made fun of him. He goes on some other show and they attack him. They put him on with Curtis and they just beat this poor guy up. He's gone. He's a hollowed out shell of a man. It's very, very sad. Speaking of shell, Tucker Carlson has lost his mind. Bobby Kennedy, I don't even know what he's doing. Do you know where he is? Do you know what's going on with that? I don't know. 2024. Remember, I told you this. Did you research what I said about the Gettys backing our friend Mr. Newsom? Did you see that? Have you researched that? No. Have you done it? No. Be honest. You don't do that. Do you research? No. You don't. And I know you and I love you still, but you don't do that because you're, what's the word? Lazy. You want people to tell you what the news is. You want people to say, would you put a YouTube together for me? Because I just, and then I'll send it to somebody else. I don't read this. Books? Oh, stop it. No, you tell me, I like this. I want to go to him. I like him. Is he correct? I don't know if he's correct. I just like him. Now, you know and I know, if you want to be a part of this society, you're going to have to do your own research. You know that, right? I'm just telling you. Please understand this. Please understand what I'm saying. Now, let me stop right now and let me remind you of something which is so critical right now. Have you gone to preparewithlionel.com? What are you waiting for? I mean, what do you think that, everything's going to be fine? We're not going to need emergency food. He's just selling that. He's just selling it. That's what nobody needs emergency food. And by the way, if there's emergency food, it'll be a couple of days, right? Preparewithlionel.com. It's a fine place, but I don't, we don't need that. This is America. We don't have stuff. They're not going to close stores. They're not going to close cities. He acts like there's a chance of there being martial law. What is with this guy? You know and I know that can't happen. Now, other people are going to preparewithlionel.com. They save $200 off a 3-month emergency food kit. And they've also said, did you know that there is this? Now, here we go. The government even tells you, National Preparedness Month 2023. The United States observes National Preparedness Month each September to raise awareness. They're telling you. Oh, I know they're telling me, but there's no, they don't, no, I don't have to worry about that. Preparewithlionel.com. We've got plenty of food that'll last. I mean, we've got Pop-Tarts. I've got some spaghetti sauce, got some, macaroni, got chips and cereal, We're fine. And listen, if there's any problem, if there's martial law, if there's a hurricane, cyclone, if there's any kind of a breakdown in the supply chain, it's not, no, it'll be fine. There's no need. He's just saying that. Preparewithlionel.com. He does that because he's selling this stuff. He doesn't mean it. We don't have This is America. We don't close stores, and not for 3 months, and not even a week. So don't worry about that. There's always Costco's, always Sam's Club, there's always Acme, there's always Piggly Wiggly and Kroger's and Publix and Winn-Dixie and there's ShopRite, and plus there's always around the corner, and there's no panic. Prepare with Lionel's great, but preparewithlionel.com. We're not worried about it, right? Right? You know people like that? No, not here. This is America. Next thing you know, he'll be telling us we're going to be invaded by illegal aliens and our country given over to people. Preparewithlionel.com. You know, and I know what's going to happen. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Preparewithlionel.com. Save $200 off a 3-month emergency food kit. Now, here's something you hate, and you hate, and you hate, and you hate. Now, let me tell you. Gavin Newsom is sitting back and he says, bring on that impeachment. Keep it up. Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, they're ready to go. You know who's backing them up? The Gettys. Did you see that? Of course you didn't. Why? Because you don't research anything. You wait for people to tell you. Well, I didn't see Newsmax. Greg Kelly tells me what I have to know. Well, Greg Kelly is not going to be talking about this. Greg Kelly is a good man, but he's not out to tell you the news. He's there to get ratings, which is exactly what he wants to do. Same thing for Hannity. And they will never veer from anything that doesn't give them ratings. Translation, something too deep, something difficult, something that's kind of scary, something that might be a little bit conspiratorial, something that is not accepted. Something that is not accepted. Give me an example. Look at one of the most incredibly... Democrats, Warner, Spanberger won't say if they still support adult web camera candidate. This is what they're worried about. This is the thing they're... here we go. 3 committee chairs tasked with leading the Biden impeachment inquiry. What do you think the Biden impeachment means? What does that mean? Poll, majority of Republicans view Chris Christie unfavorably. Boring news. Cliff Sims writes, Trump's populism, the true heir to Reagan's blue-collar conservatism, not Pence's globalism. Boring. Terrio, feds tried to coerce me into implicating Trump. Do you see this where they're making a big deal over this? There was a call. Remember Jennifer Granholm, who was the energy secretary? There was a problem with her staff. They were blocking an electric vehicle charger, and they just are going nuts over this story. This is where it is. Now, here's something interesting. Did you see Kim Jong-un with Putin? Do you see what's going on with that? No. Absolutely not. Did anybody ever mention anything about this on Fox? No. U.S. threats over deep fake threats to national security. Elon Musk. Have you? I'm going to go through this. I'm just going to stop. Because I'm wasting my time. I don't say that rudely. I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my time because I'm wasting my time. Here is the issue. I want to tell you this again. You as a citizen. Number one issue, election. Can Trump win? Let me rephrase this. Are they going to let Trump win? Not a chance. For Trump to win, the deep state, police state, intel state, shadow government, these guys, for Trump to win, they have to let him win because they can cheat legally. You know it. I know it. We all know that. Are they going to let him win? No. No. They're having too much fun. They did that once. No. You know, and I know. Whatever happens at the convention, whatever happens, something's going to happen. And then, our good friend Dinesh D'Souza is going to say, wait a minute, I got new videos of them actually taking the and throwing them into a fire. Okay. Nobody cares. That again, we're immune to it. I know. No, you don't understand. They're getting in the fire and they don't care. They don't care. Nobody cares. Are you following this? Tell me. Just nod yes. All this is for naught. They're going to steal this election legally. They're going to do it the right way. They know exactly what to do. Nobody's talking about it. But Larry Kudlow and all these other people, they're nice people. They're talking about, this is ridiculous. I think Biden actually is too damn old. That's all they're talking about. I think is he old or is he senescent? Well, I don't really know. It's not really the fact that he's old. It's not an age issue. Be careful, Larry. You're right around the corner. And you're as sharp as a tack, right? I love when people who finally go, oh my God, I'm almost that age. That's not it. What exactly do people need to know? I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, our favorite Salmonella says, my daughter, of whom I wrote, lives in Fairlawn, a lovely town in New Jersey. Over the summer, the Fairlawn, I guess, police gave out food on a first-come basis in the parking lot of some schools. Test run? Food shortage here? Sal, what's interesting? Sal, now you're going to ask the question. First answer could be. Next, what I want to do, if I am the shadow government, the invisible government, what I want to do, Sal, is I want to make sure people go crazy. I want to see what can I do to make them, Sal, go crazy, to lose their minds. What can I do? Well, what would I do? Little things like this, little things. What could I do? Well, one thing I could do was maybe one day close store. That would really be something. And by the way, Sal, thank you, my friend. You're a good man. Do you know what would happen if all of a sudden you went there and you say, hey, this is the weirdest thing? Costco, which, I don't know about you, but there's certain places. Like, let me ask you something. What is the name of your go-to store? Wherever you are, like in the UK, it's Tesco or whatever. But what is the name? What is your favorite store you go to? Give me the name. Just give me the name. Not where, but just give me the name of it. Like Whole Foods, I like a lot because they've got a lot of stuff. A lot of great products that I need. And by the way, we have the greatest delivery service in New York City you have ever seen in your life. Everything is delivered. Where do you go? Publix? Oh, where shopping is a pleasure. Oh, look at this. Liz goes to Hannaford's. Doesn't that sound delightful? Where did you like to go there? Let's go to Hannaford's. You want to go? Come on, kids. Where are we going? Mom? We're to Hannaford's. Yay! Kroger. Publix. Well, I was going to Wegmans when Wegmans. Oh my God, the Wegmans, they went crazy. Mammy's drive-through margaritas, Publix, Walmart and Costco, grocery outlets. I like that. Why do people say grocery? There's Laura, Whole Foods. And Laura, what I find? You know who all the people are in Whole Foods? The shoppers. And I don't know about you, but in New York City, every single Whole Foods person is a young African-American young man. I think we had one. Not young white college. I don't know. They could be college. What am I saying? I don't even know. But the hardest working folks there is. Look who it is, my friends. White Monkey says, you have video, emails, letters, phone recording of both Biden's crimes and election shenanigans and nothing happens. Complete immunity. I think you're onto something there, white monkey. Or what? I think you're onto something. Thank you for that. We told you what would happen. Like Chuck Schumer said, oh, it's a kangaroo court. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. I love these stores though. Sam's, Fred Meyer. I like places there. I love to go to new stores. Did you know that years ago, I don't know about now, but when you would walk into the store, you would have the bakery part was right there in the front. They would have maybe the rotisserie chickens. They would blast. There would be vents to hit you with that baked smell thing. I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but they did it at one point. And we always have these supposedly, I guess, Japanese folks making sushi. Rolls, California rolls, and this rolls and that. I mean, who are they? Are they really Japanese? I don't know. But they do a wonderful job. I never really understood that, but they're in the front. They got that little hat. They have their sushi outfit. I got like martial arts. I mean, it's so, but they have that. And there's something about the way they position. You can always look at the wear patterns on the floor. Look where things go. That by the way, that's how you can always tell on the subway where the doors open. You look at the wear patterns. You look where people are, because there's nothing worse than you're standing there and the door closed. The subway comes and it's over here, and then these other people are running in, and you're anyway. What was that great place we saw? Golden something. We went. There was some place years ago on the West Coast. What was that place? A big supermarket. Gold, not Kroger. There was one years ago in Colorado, really nice. Had a Starbucks inside. And
Safeway?
No, Golden. No, it was another one. Sweet super. King Supers. That was a good one. That was like, oh my God, I could spend a month in there. Do you ever see these places? They've got hardware stores and this and buy. Incredible. The worst I don't like is this one ShopRite where you walk in and you got one part over there and you start over here and then you got to walk all the way. It's just, I like the layout of where everything is. And then you always see these people that have been there for a long time. Sometimes you got some people who look a little dicey, and you say, can you tell me where the paper 14 towels 14? They know where everything is. They're like, Remember the old days when you had the woman? There was a YouTube channel, if you can see it, about how to check out at the store. It is so funny because it's so sweet. In any event, if that was closed during Idalia in Florida, Publix closed at 5:00, and they said, "Oh my God, 5:00! What's going on here?" And they closed at 5:00. They opened again, but they went just 5:00. It's like Publix. Now, going back to a question from before, will the corrupt Biden administration finally be brought to justice? Yes, but not the justice you want. There'll be some record of something, somebody somewhere, maybe some asterisk down the road. Maybe some historical reference will recognize what kind of a cheat and a corrupt fool he is. Maybe. But will he go to prison? No. But wouldn't you just love to see that? Wouldn't you? I mean, to see him just to have these big storyboards blown up with checks in and out, bringing his family. And cousin Lorraine had an LLC and she got money. Lorraine, did you know? I didn't know where I didn't even know it was on the LLC. They set it up. They didn't tell you? No, this is when he was the vice president. See, one of the most corrupt presidents of all time was LBJ, but he kind of sort of waited a little bit. He waited. But he had WLBJ, they had Blind Trust, he had Billy Saul Estes, Mac Wallace. He was probably as the most ruthless, corrupt president ever. Ever. Biden is just a thug. Biden is just a crook. Doesn't even care about making you look good. But people don't care because people like Errol Lewis and others are saying, listen, Errol, yes. You're going to be, I don't know if he's on CNN anymore. I don't watch this, but you're going to be our point person. Okay, I'll do this. You write, you're very smart and you can write this. Always support us. Of course I'm going to do that. Of course. And remember what happened. Gavin Newsom, California Mafia, the Gettys, D'Alessandro's, who was Nancy. This is there was a Sandro Pelosi Newsom, one of the best articles ever. Let me see. Let me see. There was this. Was this All in the Family? Is this Cal Matters? Was this it? Oh, yes. Look at this. Look at this right now. This is one of the best articles. This is from 2019. 4 families, 3 generations. You've got Brown, Pelosi, Newsom, and Getty. Pat Brown, governor. John Pelosi, Newsom, William Newsom, and then J. Paul Getty. So Pat Brown is the governor. He approved Squaw Valley concession for Newsom and Pelosi. Then you have Jerry Brown, who was Pat's, and then under Pelosi, you've got Nancy, Paul, and Ron. Then under Newsom, you got Barbara, Tessa, and William Jr. And then under that, you have Gavin. William Jr. becomes a lawyer to the Getty family. William Newsom, I guess the granddaddy, formally adopted Gordon. Gordon, by the way, Gordon is one of the Gettys. As the judge helps, change the trust law to benefit Gordon, retires, administrators, and then Gavin Newsom, and then there's Billy. Look at this. I'm going to give you this. Just look at this. This is one of the best ones ever. It's fantastic. Just read how it all kind of works. The Gettys. That's the one right there. And what's interesting about this is a lot of folks who are saying, we're brand new. Now, listen, they'll go along and they'll say, I'll do whatever you want. You know, whether you're electric, your EV stuff, and green, I don't really care about that. We'll do it. But this is the new group. This is it. Read this wonderful, wonderful breakdown. Shows this fascinating from Cal Matters. It's wonderful. And it goes to show you how things work. Now, is Larry Kudlow going to be talking about that? No. Now, I pick on Larry Kudlow. He's a nice man. He's a good man. Harmless. Absolutely harmless. The real stuff that's going to destroy this country, they will never talk. Ever. Silver Fox says, while winning the men's tennis U.S. Open, Novak Djokovic, who is famously not jabbed, was a recipient of Moderna's Shot of the Day sponsorship. One of the funniest moments, was this coincidence or mocking or ironic? Well, Silver, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that they could have stopped this? Yes. By the way, I forgot, I missed this. Insidious writes, why be prepared when we have FEMA? That's a great point. Robin Hunter, by the way, says outrageous. Could not say it better myself. This is I appreciate, I love the graft. I love it. I love this. I love obviousness. The mob, the real gangsters, the real gangsters. Do you know that they thought Frank Costello was Irish before the until the Keith Harvey Commission came along? You know, Costello. They had no. His name is Castiglia, Francesco Castiglia. They had no idea. The mob was really good. You see what a lot of these folks won't tell you. The folks on TV, on you know the Franzese and all these Sammy the Bull. These are not the mob of yore. This was a different story. See, I love and respect really good criminals who are smart. Do you understand how that works? Does this make sense to you? I'm sure it does. But do you grasp this? You see, the best thing to do is you never let people know who you are. Never. You always know how to cover things up. Tommy Lucchese, 3 fingers, Brown, came in when he was a kid and recognized a protection racket. I think it was in East Harlem. They said, you know, we will protect my gang. We'll protect your shop windows. This is when he was a kid. And they really didn't understand. They go, what do you mean protect? Protect from what? Well, we're just saying, we're not going to pay you. Well, pretty soon stores were put, and then they paid them. Then they would do it with cars. Then they would do it with cars. You know, we're going to protect your cars, right? What? You again, huh? Okay, we'll pay you. Well, just pay them. Trust me. We'll make sure your cars are okay. Absolutely. Yes, sirree. Brilliant. They don't want to hurt anybody. They want to do this. Then later on, Tommy Brown, the Lucchese, he looked around and he said, look at this. In the middle of Midtown was at one time the garment district. There was a time I remember years ago where if you were from New York, you remember pushing racks of clothes across the street. It was, I don't know what percentage of all of the clothes in the world were made out of this. And you still see places. There's whenever I do one particular radio show, I go there and it's an old fashioned, and they still do it to an extent. Anyway, Lucchese, Tommy, went in and controlled all of the trucking, all of the unions, everything, and said, if we want to stop you, because you've got to deliver this, we'll put an end to this. Nobody will go against us. Pay us. Kick a little bit, raise the price. This is the way they do it. And they were brilliant. And then came World War II. Oh, Blackjack Donovan, everybody else working together, working with the mob. It was so beautiful. He didn't even know it. Didn't even know they were there. You just didn't. You don't know how connected was. Johnny Rosali was probably the greatest. He was a connector between Hollywood and the mob, and between the mob and Intel, and the CIA and OSS then. I mean, it was beautiful. That's the way it was done. That's the way it was beautiful. There was a time in this country when to be an organized crime, nobody knew anything. Then the Joey Gallos came along because they wanted to be, Joe Gallo, Crazy Joe, wanted to be friends with with Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? Remember Jerry Orbach? There's a place right around from a 54th. I guess Jerry Orbach used to live around there, and there was a place. Anyway, they named the Jerry Orbach way. Anyway, so they were friends. A lot of these people said, we don't like that. We don't care for that. We want you to remain low key. Joe Colombo, his civil rights movement to protect the good name of Italians. Oh no, they said no. It was quiet. You never knew anything. And believe it or not, in the old days of casino, before Tommy Spilotro and all those other guys made a big deal, you never even knew they were there. They came in, they owned it, the skim, it was quiet. That's the way they did it. That you don't want to know they're there. You want to be silent partnerships here and here and here. You run it, we're your partner. That's it. Well, that's the way they did it then. And then we have Joe Biden. And what they're really worried about is, let me ask you this. Joe Biden is like a bed bug. Have you ever had a bed bug? Simex lectularius. You find one, there's a million of them. You hear what I'm saying? If you find one, there's a million of them. And there are other people who say, you know that Joe's not the only one who's doing this. You do know that Joe, you don't need the vice president to run interference for you. A senator will do it. Do you know the deals that are made between the military industrial complex, war profiteers, big pharma dictators? Do you have any idea what they're doing what right now that all of a sudden Joe Biden is calling attention to when they start digging and they say, are there any other deals like this? Oh, yeah. Hey, Maxine Waters, where did you get your money from? You're as dumb as rocks. Oh, no, my husband and my daughter. And Nancy, where'd you get your money from? How come you made all this? There's no inside trading here. Oh, no, it's my husband, Paul. He's a genius. Really? Yeah. And these Gettys, you see, they don't want this. Now, the good news about Washington is that the Republicans are just as corrupt as the Democrats. So they're not going to be digging. If you think that Comer or Jordan are going to be digging too deep, no. They're going to teach Biden a lesson, and he's going to go away, and then it's going to be moot. They're going to say, look, the guy's sick. Look at him. That's why he's doing this Sicilian flu bit. That's the reason. The reason why he's doing this is that you'll say, oh, come on. Do we really have to do this? I mean, is he's old? Okay, maybe he, look at him. He's got those watery eyes. He's got these doing the Thorazine shuffle. And he's going to be going, he's probably getting, right now as we speak, coaching. This is what Alzheimer's looks like. This is what Parkinson's looks like. This is what it looks like. I want you to walk like this. Let's watch some videos. Think I'm kidding? I don't think Joe is half as gone as you think. Joe, watch this. Remember this? That what do they call it? The mask. We want you to walk up. Listen, you got a Medal of Honor person. When you give him the money, you got the mask. When you give him the medal, I want you to walk off into the crowd. And then Karine Jean-Pierre, the dunderhead, she's going to say, well, he did this in order to protect him contaminating people with COVID. Well, why walk through the crowd? Because they starura. That's why. Oh, okay. You see? Keep doing this. Now, get ready, Hunter. You're going to have maybe a relapse, or I'm not going to say this. I'm not suggesting this. But if this was a movie, if I was writing the script and you told me, give me this story, how would you punch it up as a movie? I'd say, well, in my movie, not in real life, but in my movie, I would have the protagonist, fallen son, try to take his own life, hit rock bottom, to have people say, oh, come on, would you stop this? Come on. Are you happy now? Are you happy? You got this old man walking around. He's out of his mind. Now you're pushing this son. Nobody's nominating him for the Medal of Honor. Do you people at long last have This man's been through so much. He lost his wife and his kids and his son. May have been in Iraq, maybe not. We don't know. And now he's on the risk of maybe losing his final son because you keep pushing him. You keep crowding him. The guy tries to make a buck. Do you think he's the only one? And that's when they tell him, shut up. Do you think he's the only one? Shut up. Go ahead and look at, you know how many millionaires come out of Congress? How the hell do you become a millionaire? By making what, 100 and, hang on a minute. Let's look at this. Average congressional salary, 2023. Let's just look at this. What is the salary of a congressman in 2023? It is 174,000. 174. This is according to whatever it is. So roughly like that. Do you know what it's like to live there? The cost of living. So whatever you net, whatever your net is, whatever your monthly net, you're going to do what? Come on. Ed Crowley says, when I was growing up in Baltimore, my grandparents lived down the street from Mayor D'Alessandro. I had no idea. Baltimore. Boy, that's a place, Eddie. Or Edie, rather, excuse me, Edie. That's serious stuff. Sal Manella, by the way, says, there were wise guys in my old neighborhood in Sheepshead Bay who could buy and sell well-known moguls. Yet they lived in mid-sized detached houses and were unassuming. At most, they would drive a Cadillac. Absolutely. You know, Sal, it's funny you say that. There were people, and I know the same thing. When I was growing up as a kid, the guy that we had, our famous person, so to speak, was Santo Trafficante. Or Santos. All of a sudden, I don't know why they call him Santos, but they do. It's Santo. And he most probably, they believe, was responsible, either that or his father, the old man, was something, for the disruption and the dispatch of a fellow named Charlie Wall. And Charlie Wall was, the big thing was Bolita. Bolita was big in Tampa. Santo Trafficante lived in the most, absolutely the most. I remember listening to, knowing Frank Regano, who was his lawyer. And then he was from Tampa, and he was also Jimmy Hoffa's lawyer, Carlos Marcello's lawyer, Martelluzzo. They called Jimmy Hoffa Martelluzzo, Little Hammer. And Santo Trafficante lived. I mean, he was bigger than anything else. So the stories I heard were so great. Where he'd be going to the store, he'd be out in the morning, he'd look, and the FBI are following him. So they're going this, and he looks, and they're following him again. So he loses them. Now the FBI gets upset. He's driving around. All of a sudden, there's a noise or whatever. There's his car. The story goes, Santo gets in the back of the FBI car and says, listen, if you're going to follow me, you might as well drive me. Now let's go to the drugstore. I got to pick up a prescription. So the story goes, his lawyers would say, you did what? What are you nuts? Why did you do that? What did you say? He said, I just sat in the back and said nothing about, all he talked about was J. Edgar Hoover being gay. Well, and he said, why'd you do that? He says, they couldn't write it down. They couldn't tell anybody. They couldn't write it down. I mean, there were stories about this. This guy never, when he was arrested, the only time, I think one of the few times he's ever spent any time in jail was in Cuba. And who went to Cuba to try to get him out? Who? Jack Ruby. Now, you're talking about a time that doesn't exist anymore. You're talking about a time that doesn't exist anymore. This is something that, how do I say this? You'll never see anything like this ever again. Never. And by the way, the real wise guys, the real old-fashioned Italian, this thing of theirs, that was, nobody knew anything. It was just, and they didn't know anything because nobody knew. I knew one. Well, I don't know if I'm just going to leave it at that. One elderly gentleman said during his youth in New York, there might have been 5, 3, 4 FBI agents. The people you had to worry about were the DA's office, local. That's what you got to worry about, not the feds. Feds didn't even exist. And drugs before the DEA, it was Anslinger, or as Lucky Luciano called him, ass liquor. Those guys are so corrupt. Remember one thing. Remember two things which are very, very important. Number one, Hearst, marijuana, DuPont, and hemp, Anslinger, their boys. Hemp posed a threat to Hearst. Why? Timber, forests, paper, lumber, newspapers. And who would take over that? Pancho Villa. That's number one. Number two, the DuPonts, polyester, World War II. What was the biggest component? The biggest fear, the biggest threat? Hemp. You can make sales out of it. It just, come on. We've heard this. I think the book is Up in Smoke, one of the best books ever on the subject. All money, all power. J. Edgar Hoover, superb. J. Edgar Hoover, the real story, aside from the fact, I do not believe for a moment that he was at a party in a dress. That was a Roy Cohn story. It's ridiculous. Clyde Tolson, it is feasible that was his lover for years. They were inseparable. But Hoover was a degenerate gambler. And Frank Costello would say, go to this, horse race, bet on this. They would lose. They knew all about it, but they knew who he was, but still it was just an understanding. Look at the picture of Hoover at the Stork Club with Clyde Tolson and on cruises, and they knew it. So for the longest time, Hoover's thing was communism, not organized crime. Why would he not want to say that? Because he's a national cop. And the national police officer is not going to admit that there's this organized crime thing called the mafia that he knows nothing about. It kind of goes against his natural interest. So he said, there's no mob. There's no mob. It's communists. Well, guess what? Here comes Kefauver, McClellan, Bobby Kennedy. Oh, no. And then they had these hearings, Joe Valachi. Oh, God. And that changed everything. And then they had to change their tune regarding that. And he was so worried. What are you going to do? And there's one thing that the mob hates more, the mob then. Not the mob now. Not this stuff you see on, YouTube or platform. But the real LCN, the real perfidy is one thing they did not abide. One of the things that drove them nuts was after all they did for for Jack Kennedy, for Bobby Kennedy to turn on him like that. And they were supposedly on their way to Joe Kennedy to tell him something when he had the stroke. Remember the story of Frank Sinatra? Frank Sinatra was so happy. He was going to have John Kennedy come to his Palm Springs, whatever place. And they even built a helipad. Bobby Kennedy said, no, you're not going to be there. I said, what? Well, because, he's Frank Sinatra knows mobsters. Mobsters that basically got John Kennedy laid. Phyllis McGuire, Judith Exner, Sam Momo Giancana. How dare you? After what we did, after we helped you with Chicago, for years in bootlegging, what? And supposedly Sinatra took a sledgehammer and tore up this concrete helipad. I mean, they just, God, this was part of that. Yeah. And going after Allen Dulles, not a good idea. Saying you're going to smash the CIA to 1,000 pieces, that didn't help either. The level of corruption, what you're seeing right now is so absolutely nothing. This is nothing. There's no mob. You know who the mob is now? the shadow government. That's the mob. Intel state, the Intel state, big tech, big pharma. Don't ever forget big agri. You forgot all about them. See, GMOs have been quiet. Bayer, it was Monsanto years ago. We don't say that anymore. The people, the cartels, the ones who own this. And don't believe for a moment this business about how they're giving Elon Musk, this Isaacson book. I love Elon Musk's quote when they said, "Did you really turn off Starlink or whatever?" He goes, "Excuse me. If you're the government, you want to buy this, lease or whatever. I'm not a part of the war effort. I can turn my satellite off or on anytime I want. I'm a private organization. Who the hell do you think you are?" Then again, Larry Kudlow, bless his heart. How about that joke? The Biden? See, I want to talk about things that are so interesting. 9/11, you never heard anything. The New York Post action. Oh, I got to tell you this story. I want to read this to you. I want to read this. I will never read anything you send me. I will never read your name ever. But I want to read something to you. This was so interesting. Oh, here we go. No mention name. Lionel, as a first responder on 9/11, you are correct about Building 7. I and thousands, and even brought up by the New York Post for the first time. I walked around Building 7 after the collapse of the North and South Towers. There was a fire in the building, but nothing that would cause it to collapse. At 5:20 p.m., I watched the building collapse, and I said to a fellow officer, there was no reason for that building to implode like the North and South buildings. I knew in my spirit that evening on September the 11th that something wasn't right. I was red-pilled immediately, and that building came after that building came down. Thank you for your courage. And I said, no, thank you for your courage. Do you know these incredible people who fought and who were so responsible for this? They just were. But they saw what they did. God bless these people. So, my friends, stick with us. I say to you, dear friends, that our particular way of thinking is a little different. I am not necessarily of what you might call the conspiratorial mind. That's not my, I don't know what that word means. But if that means the truth, yes. And by the way, this is my private channel in which we go into greater detail about stuff like this. You're not going to hear that on the Jesse Waters show. You're just not. You're not going to hear this. Look at this. There's our girl. Look at this. 221 likes. Can we have 400? Thank you, Liz. Thank you, dear heart. See that? That's the love. Now, one more time. Talk about love. Don't forget our friend. Mike Lindell at mypillow.com. Mypillow.com, promo code Lionel. You go and just look at this plethora of information and data and wonderful things for you and yours right there before you. So beautiful. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel, or call 800-645-4965. Watch how fast Mike picks up the phone. MyPillow.com. Remember, they told Mike Lindell that he had to shut up, that they do all this stuff. And guess what? They said no. He said, no, I'm not going anywhere. And he's still there. And we support him and we love him. And that's what I love. Somebody who's got guts. All right? So that's it. All right, dear friends. You have been so terrific. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being a friend. Seriously. It's very nice of you. You're very, very nice. Very, 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 very nice. Salmonella. By the way, is Randazzo still there in Sheepshead Bay? Wonderful place. There's so much history, so much wonderful history in this area. New York is so beautiful. The Italian food, the pizza, the pastries. Oh my God. I still think Arthur Avenue that's the little Italy people talk about. That is just, there's nothing like that. Nothing like that. And if you're ever in there, please say hello to my friend David at Mike's Deli, David Greco. That place is like, that's just from another era. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious day. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. Don't forget to follow the channel. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you do this. Like all the videos. It helps our metrics. And until then, dear friends, I say to you, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Ta-ta.